Hey there folks, welcome into the Truck King YouTube channel. Today we're looking at this, the redesigned 2025 GMC Yukon AT4 Ultimate. Yes, for 2025 the Yukon's gotten a facelift, a new interior, and this ultra luxurious off-road model, and we're going to take a closer look right now. Let's talk powertrains right off the bat. So when you go for AT4 Ultimate, you get a standard 6.2 liter V8. It makes 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through a 10-speed automatic. And if you want, the 3-liter Duramax diesel is also available in this package. Now, first of all, you're going to see the changes right up front. The nose has been just sort of massaged for 2025. Not a massive change. It's actually kind of been brought more in line with some of the smaller GMC models like the Acadia, so there's a bit more of a family resemblance now. I think it looks pretty sharp for a big old SUV, but why don't you drop in the comments now and just let me know, what do you think of the new styling here on this Yukon? Let's look at the features you get on this AT4 Ultimate. First of all, up front, some nice tow hooks. They're a little buried in this plastic fascia, but still nice to have those. And then you're getting a performance front skid plate, GMC calls it, down here underneath, so a little bit of extra protection. Now, probably the largest upgrade, and this always is the case on an off-road vehicle, the tires. You're getting a set of 20-inch wheels, and these are Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain tires, so nice to have the upgraded rubber. And then behind that, this model also gets standard 4-corner air suspension, so you can lift and drop this body quite a bit, which is nice. Now coming down the side, I'll pop my door and you can see we have powered running boards here on our model, which is nice for the off-road model because they do tuck up out of the way when you're not using them. Now finally, we can look at some features at the rear end here. First of all, because it's the Yukon, we do have the glass that opens independently of the hatch. That is a nice feature to have, lets you reach in and access your stuff. And then finally, I'll pop this hatch. I should also point out quad exhaust down there. That actually looks pretty good. And then, yeah, of course, this is a 3-row SUV, so you're getting tons of space inside. Even behind this 3rd row, that's a decent amount of storage space. And this is not the XL model, so this could be even longer if you really needed it. Now, when it comes to features back here, a little bit of underfloor storage there, which is always handy to be able to tuck stuff away. A couple of D-rings over here, and you're also getting a plug right there, so you have some power at the rear end of your Yukon. Now finally, we'll talk towing and payload. There is a hitch hidden underneath that plastic cover right there. So max tow on this model is just over 8,500 pounds, and we'll check the payload. Oh, you know what? This vehicle obviously has the GM trailering information sticker, so I didn't know the exact max tow, but that's why it's nice to have the sticker. And look at that, I was wrong. That's why the sticker is important. The max tow on this Yukon as it sits is 8,000 pounds. That's why I love this sticker, because it is specific to this exact model. So 8,000 pounds of towing and 1,449 pounds of payload, which is pretty dang good. And I've said this many times, I'm gonna say it again, every other brand in the industry needs to look at what GM is doing with that trailering information sticker and put that on their vehicles. Make it easy for us to get to those numbers, take the guesswork out of it. Let's take a look at the 2nd and 3rd rows now. I like to start with the baby seat situation. So we have captain's chairs here in the 2nd, and then 3 seats back there in the 3rd. There are lower latch on both captain's chairs and no lower latch in the back, so that's not great. But there are top tethers along that back bench, 3 of them, and then tethers here on the captain's chairs as well. Now I'll climb in. On paper, This is 42 inches of second row legroom, and it is absolutely massive. I stand at 6'2", and I fit in here just fine. I'd say it's just enough headroom. I am just brushing up there, but it's enough, which is the important part. And then I always like to point out this seat has many inches of adjustability, so even I could pull myself forward like this to give that third row passenger more space, or if nobody's back there, go all the way back and maximize. But yeah, this is massive, and this is exactly what you want out of your massive 3-row SUV. Now, when it comes to amenities, the passengers back here actually get their own touchscreen. They can control HVAC and a bunch of other things. Media controls on there too. You can see the HDMI and USB-C ports, and then down below, you also have a plug. And these are important because on the screens up here in front of these second row passengers, you can only plug things in using those HDMI ports. So yes, you actually need to bring along a DVD player or a video game system or something like that to be able to watch them on these screens. So now, let's go look at the third row. So these seats flip down and then tumble forward. And I will say this is not great if you do have baby seats installed. However, if you don't, this is a massive opening. This really makes climbing into the third a lot easier. So we'll put that down, bring it up. So on paper, this third row is about 35 inches of legroom, and it's actually pretty decent too. Now, of course, this seat could come back, so it could be a lot closer, but as I showed you up there, even a big guy can push this seat forward, so I could legitimately fit in this third row. I have enough headroom. If I lean back, I get into the roof a little bit, but when I'm just sitting here, I'm totally comfortable. My knees are a little tall. That's the only sort of thing that stands out to me as uncomfortable, but besides that, this is a pretty dang good third row as well. So yes, I'll say this once again. If you're getting one of these big 3-row SUVs, you want to feel like you can fit adults in any seat. And I would say in this Yukon, you absolutely can. All right, folks, now we're here behind the wheel of the Yukon. I'm on an empty road. I want to feel the power. I've got it in sport mode. Here we go. Oh. Oh, nice V8 power. Of course, this is a known quantity from GM. The 6.2 liter as it is right now has been around for many years. It's strong off the line, and it has that nice linear feeling. We've gotten so used to turbocharged engines these days, they'll just never have that same sort of smooth, constant acceleration that a V8 does. So while I'm okay with the small turbos because they're so powerful, there's just something about a V8 that feels different, is a little bit more satisfying, and then this 6.2 also sounds incredibly good. Now, we did grab some exhaust sound just sitting in my driveway revving it. You can hear it here. It sounds okay, but honestly, when it's just sitting there in park, they limit it to about 3,000 RPM. It's out here on the open road when you put your foot into it that it really sounds good. So yes, definitely all positives on this V8. And the fact is, there's no small turbo available here, but there is a diesel available. So if you do want better fuel economy, if you do want that strong torque for towing, you can always just step over into the diesel too. So I do like the engine options that are here in this Yukon. So power feels solid. Let's talk ride and handling. And the suspension here has quite a few tricks up its sleeve. First of all, a 4-corner air suspension, so you can raise and lower that height. But then second of all, magnetic ride control, which essentially means that the dampers are variable, so they can change their damping forces based on your drive mode and based on the reaction of the suspension to the road. And all of that comes together to give us a best of both worlds ride. When I'm just cruising down an open road like this, things are soft, eating up the road really well underneath me. I don't really feel the road down there, which is nice. But then when you are coming through a corner or even doing an aggressive lane change, it's amazing how tight the body stays. It really doesn't roll that much. It doesn't have any of that sort of big hulking SUV feeling, and that has everything to do with the suspension being able to firm up when you want it to. So I feel like I say this in a lot of new vehicles these days, but we really have almost achieved a best of both worlds perfection, where you can go off-road and have the suspension eat stuff up. You can cruise over rough, broken roads and have the suspension be supple and soft. And then when you want to put it into a corner, the thing will tighten up and give you that rewarding handling. Now, it's still a big, heavy SUV. I don't want to give you the wrong impression. It's not carving through a corner. It just doesn't have any of that sort of unwillingness to go around a corner. It feels like it wants to turn in, and that makes it just more confident because everything here is very predictable. Looking at the features, there are a ton inside, and I mean, they call it the ultimate, right? That's the point here. This is the top tier of GMC features that's available. So we have things like night vision that's been brought over here to the GMC Yukon for the first time. That appears up here on the screen in front of me, and it's actually reading heat signatures. So if you're driving at night and you're scanning for animals in the ditch, that night vision camera is going to see them way before you see them with your naked eye. So that is pretty cool. We of course have Super Cruise here, and I have used Super Cruise in this Yukon plus tons of other GM products, and I'm a fan. I drove across the 401 here in Toronto yesterday in heavy traffic, and I let Super Cruise do all of the work. And while you still have to monitor the system, you can't just forget about driving. And I'll say it did shut off a couple times on me, so yes, you have to be paying attention. If you're paying attention and doing your part correctly, the system works really well and does take some stress out of that driving in traffic. Just one less thing to think about: your steering, your throttle, and your braking. So yes, I am a fan of Super Cruise here too. Other features up here, of course, wireless charging for my cell phone. I am getting a rear mirror camera up here, which is nice to have. And then a massive new touchscreen, over 16 inches of touchscreen here in my center stack. Feels like with new vehicles these days, we're always getting more screen, and this is a massive screen. I don't know how much bigger we're going to go than this. It's nice to have such a big screen. It looks nice and crisp. All of my controls are in there. Actually, more than ever, GM has brought a lot of controls away from my driver infotainment screen and brought them over here to the center stack screen. Things like control of my head-up display. And yes, there's a head-up display. That's over here in the center stack now. So that's sort of an interesting move for GM, is bringing more of the controls into one centralized location. And as long as you know where they are and you learn the system, it works quite well too. So yes, like having the big, massive touchscreen over there. We can look at the cameras here on the move too. So there's a camera button over here to the left of my steering wheel. That opens up our camera views. And yes, these work at speed. There was a time not too many years ago where manufacturers weren't sure whether these should work at speed. So a lot of them would time out or they wouldn't work at all. That has totally gone away. All the manufacturers have decided, hey, you got cameras, you can use them. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. So here's my first view. That's a rear and a top down. There's my front and a top down. That's looking down at my nose, down at my tail. This view specifically doesn't tell you much while you're on the move, but this is great for parking when you're getting in close to things. There's looking back at your rears, looking forward at the fronts, and then your hitch hookup view too. So yes, while you're on the move, you have access to your full suite of cameras, which is nice. But more importantly, of course, when you're parking or rolling at slow speeds close to obstacles, that's when these are going to be really helpful. Another move that I think is worthy of praise, and that didn't just happen this year, it's been in GM vehicles for a number of years now, is the Google built-in system. This infotainment system is all run by Google, therefore it uses Google Maps. And I have to say that not only does it look nice, but the voice recognition I think is probably the best in the industry, or one of the best in the industries. It's very natural. You don't have to use certain words or certain sentences. You can ask it in a very nonchalant way, and generally it will find exactly what you are looking for. Here, let's just try one. Hey, take me to a GMC dealer.
There's a Georgian Chevrolet Buick GMC 8.8 kilometers away. Navigate to that one?
No thanks.
What about the one 9.7 kilometers away?
And it's got a whole list it's going to keep asking me, but that's just a quick example of, yeah, I like the fact that these days they're all natural voice recognition systems, so you don't have to stick with some preset, set of words or sentences, and this one just always seems to understand, quickly reacts, and generally always finds the right place to go. So yeah, big fan of the Google built-in here in the Yukon. The last thing that needs to be said about the interior is just how beautiful it is. The materials here are quite nice. This open pore wood is real, feels good to your hands. GM calls it their obsidian rush interior, and it's gorgeous. And I think General Motors just realized that even though the AT4 customer wants a little bit more of that sort of adventure-ready set of features, a lot of them also want the absolute best when it comes to luxury, and that's what they've done here. They looked at their sales, they said, hey, we sell a lot of AT4s, we sell a lot of Denali's, let's combine those models, and here's what we ended up with. So yes, an absolutely gorgeous interior. Now let's talk a little bit more about AT4 and sort of how this thing actually handles off-road. We didn't do any hard off-roading with it. I took it down some local, sandy trails. The first thing I'll say is that with the air suspension, once you lift this vehicle up, it does stiffen up quite a bit. That's common with airbags. Once you bring that thing up, there's just not a lot of travel left. So yes, at max height, the suspension stiffens up, and I was coming through some just little sandy whoops, and at 35 kilometers an hour, I'd say this thing already felt pretty tapped out. So not at all a high-speed off-roader, and that's also just because of how heavy it is. It's a big, heavy SUV, so the suspension is working that much harder. But for going into, I would say, rough road situations, it's going to serve you really well. Being able to lift the body means you have to worry less about clearance. That's a really big deal in the snow, especially. I love being able to lift my body up to make sure my bumpers aren't plowing or anything like that. And then, yeah, when it comes to off-road equipment, I mentioned the skid plates and the tires. Out back, we have an electronic limited slip differential, so there's no lockers here either, just an ELSD. So again, in my mind, I wouldn't call it a real off-roader, but definitely a rough roader, something that's going to be better on a gravel or dirt road or down some unused cottage path. That's probably the actual or the exact usage case you want for something like this. And now, I do want to see how that ELSD works in the back, so why don't we go throw this thing up on the rollers and see how it handles those. Now let's do some traction testing, folks. So first of all, I want to test the rear limited slip. So I have the rear passenger side up on a roller, so it has no traction at all, and we're going to see in two-wheel drive if power can get over to this wheel. Now with a limited slip, it should be able to get me power, and that should get me off the roller, but let's find out. Okay, two-wheel drive, normal mode. Here we go, let's see what happens. Lifting off the brake now. And that's precisely what you want from a limited slip. It did spin a little bit, I don't know, 10 rotations maybe, and then you could feel it kind of binding up, shooting that power over, and moving me off the roller. So that works well. Now let's see if it can get off of 3 rollers. And now time for the toughest setup. So we have 3 rollers where only the front passenger side tire is on the ground. So we have to see if the Yukon can get power to that front passenger. And we're actually going to start in 4-wheel drive auto. We're going to use the auto setting, which means it should start in rear-wheel drive, and then it should send the power forward. And then the question is, can it get the power to just that one wheel? Because essentially this is just an open front differential. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Here we go, everybody, in drive, normal mode. Foot coming off the brake now. We're spinning, little throttle. Oh, we're spinning. Oh, it's trying to figure it out. I'm turning a little bit. Okay, it's not happy, and there was actually less traction control than I expected. I expected traction control to be braking that front passenger side to send power over. I haven't felt that yet, so we're gonna start engaging some tricks here. First trick is off-road mode. Let's see if off-road mode is enough to get the power where it needs to be. Okay, off-road mode, trying again. Oh, the air suspension's lifting me up a little bit too. And foot coming off the brake now. Oh, maybe now? Yes! Well, that was a struggle for the GMC, no doubt about it. It wasn't a very quickly reacting system. The four-wheel drive auto sent the power forward quickly, but it just couldn't figure out how to get the power to that front passenger. And then in off-road mode, of course, the vehicle is now looking for more of those low traction situations and trying to compensate. So yes, in that drive mode, it was able to get the power there, but even in off-road mode, it was pretty slow to react. And this is just another reason why I think this is more of a rough roader than really a hardcore off-roader. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this video. Now, for a couple years now, GMC has been telling us that AT4 and Denali are by far their most popular models. And with this AT4 Ultimate, essentially GMC just smashed those two models together. So now you're getting some of those off-road upgrades, plus a really nice luxury interior. So yeah, folks, that's it for this one. Now, of course, I need to hear from you. Why don't you drop into the comments, let me know what you think of this Yukon and everything you've seen in this video. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to Truck King and see what we're testing next. See ya.